I was beginning to be aware that actually my context was slightly different. I'd schooled myself in Western art. I didn't feel I wanted to be an Indian artist. I didn't quite know what it was going to be.
But it was a return visit to India which provided the catalyst that would lead him to early success.
I made a trip in '79, and suddenly many of the things that I'd been working with felt as if, oh, I know what that's about. That's where it comes from, or that's how it relates. In Indian religion, there's so many parts of Indian life that somehow I said, oh, I recognize that. I know what that's about. And I came back, I started making objects with pigment. Very simple, abstract forms. I always felt that somewhere there, these things had a voice. It's the first time I had that feeling. I don't have to go out and sell them. It'll happen. Something will happen. I felt it with great certainty, perhaps naively, but it was great. I was hugely certain about it. So when I first got written about or known as a young artist, you know, people would often write of my work as if it was made by a female artist. To me, I love that.
Yes,
I love that sense.
There is a very feminine side to you.
Kind of fragile thing. I hope that's what it is. I don't know.
Anish's early work, the pieces made of powder, with those very extraordinary exotic shapes, drew one to them. They were a sort of source of wonder. Very, very beautiful, very, very luscious, very sensual, very delicious. Those early pieces were unlike anything I'd ever seen.
Colour in sculpture is fundamentally difficult because sculpture is so much about form, about shape, about the turn, the feel, the texture, the weight. But perhaps what was characteristic of him was what pigment meant. In other words, the stuff of colour, pure colour, solid colour. That was very, very different and very, very intriguing. Both material and colour were one thing.
I met Kapoor in Brighton, where I was reminded of some of his early pigment works. The same dark colours and familiar shapes, but here on a much larger scale.
You called it the dismemberment of Jeanne d'Arc.
One is literally walking in her, amongst her, through her body. Now, I think the implication that the viewer is involved is something that's fundamental to sculpture.
And also the way that one body or one person responds to another.
Precisely. I mean, it's about those memories that are in there or in your stomach as much as the ones that are in your head. It's as if this body is laid out in a almost religious way. Something to do with the way that one might go to Santiago de Compostela, you know, a kind of pilgrim. Yeah. The idea of a journey to an object, the journey to a place, a site. I think that's what at least that's the kind of sculpture I'm interested in.
The colour red is a sort of a favoured part of your palette, isn't it? Why red?
Red makes a kind of black. Makes a kind of black that blue doesn't. It's a black that you see when you close your eyes. It's something you know intimately, and it's that sort of knowing that I feel is the real subject of the work.
Darkness sometimes?
Totally. Darkness all the time.
A lot of his works seem to have a void, and that you're looking out into this space without limit and without boundary, and you don't know where you exist in relation to that. But it never feels like it's empty space. It always feels kind of weighted and like there's some life. You're struck, I think, with Anish's work is how it engages you in a very generous way. A lot of the realization of the work is happening through your response to it.
One is always on the brink of being both inside the work and outside the work. You're literally placed in relation to the void on an edge between what you know and what you don't know. But you are also on edge in the more emotional, affective way. He engages not only the eye, he engages the nerves, he engages the emotions.
Clearly there's something about interior. I mean, here's a sculptor who produces blank, dark, interior spaces. I mean, Henry Moore and Hepworth both made holes in sculpture, but Anish makes space inside sculpture, space that can envelop you, just as you don't expect it. It's as if it's four-dimensional, not just three, that he produces time because time is your time with it. And I think somewhere that idea that time is a continuum and an experiential element, he finds a way of working that in.
A major work to be shown at the Royal Academy has been brought out of storage.
That wasn't there before.
Yeah, that was there before.
But no, it wasn't. I don't believe.
Yeah,
we didn't notice it last time. On every joint, it's there. Doesn't matter whether it was there or not. We got to get it out.
Rid of it. Yeah, exactly.
Whether we have to cut the whole bloody lot out and make a hole in it.
We may have to.
The problem is it isn't just there. It's all along the whole of that edge. Okay, now, how can we be clear about this? No compromises. Please don't tell me it can't be done, or...
I don't do that. You know us.
Some other fucking variation.
When was the last time I told you that?
Or some other bloody variation on the theme. No, it can't, because that's the work. There's nothing to it. You know, It's a yellow nothing.
Yeah. Well, it's better than it was. I swear. It is better than it was when it was up in there.
Bollocks.
The scale and ambition of Kapoor's work presents great technical challenges.
Just wait here until it comes through, eh, buddy?
Cross over when you get to the intersection you want it.
In New Zealand, he's overseeing the installation of a new work that will be built into the landscape.
Somewhere deep in my heart is a Wagnerian will to the grand. I think in the last few years, I feel I can handle a bit more of that.
If this tight now, we can take this chain block off and nothing's going to slip. Greg?
1, 2, 3.
Like much of his work, it's designed with the location in mind. In this case, it must be secure enough to withstand the weather conditions of the New Zealand coast.
We expect 120 mile an hour winds. We'd have the cable wires inside pockets. Really, it's a very careful bit of tailoring.